Performance is very important from an end user perspective, even more important when you have context sensitive and time sensitive applications like voice and video. There is no noticeable difference between our legacy implementation and our post-quantum implementation. I feel very good about that.
Migrating to post-quantum cryptography across an organization will take time. But while you're replacing every cipher, you may also want to add systems that bring new functionality and come with PQC built in. Imagine a mobile messaging app like WhatsApp, but with ML-KEM under the hood and enterprise-grade controls. Customers from hospitals dodging ransomware to finance professionals sharing secrets and quantum-proof chats are already using it. Learn about this tool in this episode of the Post-Quantum World. I'm your host, Konstantinos Kragianis. I lead quantum computing services at Protiviti, where we're helping companies prepare for the benefits and threats of this exploding field. I hope you'll join each episode as we explore the technology and business impacts of this post-quantum era. Our guest today is the founder and CEO at NetSfere, Anurag Lal. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. We cover PQC quite a lot. It comes up quite regularly. So I'm always interested in what companies are doing to begin their migration and what products can help along the way. So we're going to have an interesting chat today, I think. So can you start by giving us an overview of NetSfere and how post-quantum cryptography fits into your vision for secure communications?
Absolutely. So let me introduce NetSfere to you. It'll give you context, like you said. NetSfere actually is a secure messaging platform that has been built from the ground up for the enterprise. Our vision behind NetSfere was very simple. We recognized that mobile messaging as a means of communication with the enterprise is going to become more and more important. It's convenient, it's brief, it allows you to be that much more productive, and it's easily available. And we have also data that says that in most cases, mobile messages are responded to within 15 minutes of you receiving a mobile message, which says a lot more than email and other forms of enterprise communication. So we looked around and we found very quickly that there was really not a purpose-built enterprise-grade mobile messaging communications platform. So we went about 11 years ago to build a platform that catered to that very important need. And we built it on multiple pillars, which we felt were very, very important to make this communication mechanism available and usable at the enterprise level. The first very important pillar that we built this platform on was encryption. We believed security was key to enterprise communications. Regardless of who you are and what you do and what business you're in, you want to be able to keep your communication secure in every way, form, and shape and form. And so encryption was at the core of that security prerogative, if you may. The second very important pillar was control. We also felt that the enterprise IT organization needed to control the environment that they were deploying for their employees. And so far, with the consumer-grade applications available out there, like WhatsApp and Slack and others, they weren't really able to control that. And so control was a very, very important aspect of what we built as part of this platform. The other very important pillar was, regulatory compliance. We also recognized that a lot of industries had very important regulatory obligations, and they were unconsciously not complying to them by using some of these consumer platforms. So we built in a regulatory framework, or the means to be able to comply to your regulatory framework. So that was our third pillar. And then finally, we built in a range of productivity capabilities that people were used to. But in our case, we did it for them to be able to leverage it in a contextual manner. So now you were actually being able to use voice, video, screen sharing, and other means that we are very used to today, but do it contextually within a conversation, if you may, making it that much more valuable in the enterprise environment. But again, to answer your question directly, why is PQC important to us? And, we built this platform in a crypto-agile manner. We recognize that our initial step towards encryption, which leveraged elliptical curve key exchange, was the right approach for us to take. It allowed us to, basically secure these conversations and leave the keys in the hands of the enterprise. But we also knew that there will be threats down the road for which we will have to adapt, and evolve. And so we built the platform to be crypto agile. And then recognizing the recent threat of quantum computing, which continues to kind of accelerate, the pace just continues to grow. We knew that it was now time for us to take that next step and make this platform quantum proof. Today, we have NetSfere being used by organizations across the globe in the finance vertical, in the healthcare vertical, law enforcement, technology companies, all exchanging information that is very, very important to them. But that it's so much so important that they want to make sure that they get past the harvest now, decrypt later threat that is posed by quantum. So we aggressively pursued post-quantum cryptography as a means to make our platform quantum proof. We followed the activities at NIST very carefully and very closely. NIST essentially came out with their standard in the fall of last year. And we've already deployed that as part of our implementation. And today we believe we are one of the first to be quantum proof as a business communications platform.
Wow. Okay. So with that, we'll run the credits. No, I'm kidding. No, that was very in depth for sure. Let's double click on a few facts in there. So just to set the stage, you did a great job explaining why you built this. When you're doing a migration post-quantum cryptography now, obviously one way is to just replace ciphers everywhere. It becomes a game of inventory and hunting them down and all that good stuff. And we have to do that, of course, across the board. But it sounds like this wasn't built to solve the PQC problem. It sounds like you actually were building something to get, as you said, more of a corporate version of WhatsApp or something like that, right? Is that correct? Because of the benefits, the speed of response, and whatever. So what we have here is now one approach where you're trying to solve that problem, having a regulatory friendly kind of communication system, but you also want to make sure that you're not introducing a new problem by not being able to be part of this migration, right? If I have that. So right now you're claiming the ability to implement NIST finalists. Can you talk about which finalists you're able to implement and what drove any selection process you might have gone through? Obviously, NIST picked some, so that might be the answer. But I'd love to hear from you.
Right. No, and I think you said it quite well. In the simplistic form, we can be looked at as a enterprise grade WhatsApp platform, right? But that's at the base level. There's so much more that the platform offers, and also, we wanted to make sure that the migration was seamless. Because we have existing users who are using the platform, leveraging traditional means of encryption. And as they start using post-quantum algorithms, we want to make sure that that transition is seamless. Because you have conversations with old ciphers, and now you're going to introduce new ciphers into the process. And how does that work when you're going from device to device? Because we also support multi-device authentication and multi-device synchronization in these conversations. So we just went through that, and we were able to do it in a very seamless manner. But again, answering our questions directly, we adopted the Crystal Kyber 1024 mechanism for PQC, and then we're in the process of now implementing ML-KEM as well to ensure that all devices, whether those be iOS, Android, or desktop platforms, are all able to leverage the strength of PQC.
Okay, so you're going to use one of the levels of ML-KEM, like maybe level 5 or something?
Correct.
Assuming you were doing the 1024 when it was
correct. Yeah, we're doing 1024. Correct.
And are you doing anything for signatures like MLDSA or anything like that?
Not at this point in time, because we felt this approach was adequate for what we were trying to accomplish.
Okay.
But as the standard continues to evolve, like I mentioned, we've built the platform to be crypto agile. And so if we have to evolve our implementation, it's very easy for us to do so.
So when some products in the wild started implementing idea of post-quantum early, they did it often in a hybrid way or some kind of customized way. So, of course, we've heard about how AWS is done in the cloud, they're hybrid. Then you've got things like Apple's PQ3, and you've got, of course, what Signal did. So how would you describe the way you're implementing? Are you implementing it as a pure, straight up, here's ML-KEM, boom, or is it some kind of like hybrid wrapper?
No, we did not want to do a hybrid approach because we felt very confident in the way we could implement this. And we also felt that we could manage the transition very seamlessly from an end user perspective. So the complexity was hidden behind the platform. And again, one of the things that, we pride ourselves on, we built the platform to be mobile first and to be very, very friction free from an end user perspective. So this implementation, we also wanted to ensure did not introduce friction. So we felt that if we took that hybrid approach, we would be introducing a level of friction, which we did not want to do. So it's entirely invisible from the end user. We manage it in the background, but they see no change in their interaction with the platform the minute they upgrade to the latest version of the platform that supports PQC. Everything else happens in the background, so they just continue to use the platform as they would normally do so.
So a sysadmin, would they make any decisions? Would they say, hey, when Anurag's on his phone, he'll be getting ML-KEM, but if he tries to access these messages on his laptop, he's only going to use whatever other standard because he's in this other environment? Are there going to be granularity differences like that?
So the sysadmin has a very, very powerful, portal that we make available to them from which they can manage the platform, right? We give them granular detail with regards to what end users do, how they do it, and what they use. They have the means to do exactly what you just said, but we recommend they do not do that. Because it just adds a level of complexity that they don't want to deal with, because ultimately their phone is going to ring when they have a problem from one device to another device, which inherently would happen. Because if you have a PQC conversation now being accessed from a device that's not PQC ready, you're going to see gibberish at the end of the day, and we don't want to see that happen. So our counsel to them is turn it on the minute the upgrade goes out and let it run. And that way you will not have to deal with the support issues that may come about.
So in customers using this now, I guess I have a few questions. Are there any that are basically saying that, yep, it's since August, we have the finalists, so flip the switch, we're all in? Like, are there any that when they install it, they're like, we only want this PQC, let's go? Is that what?
Yes. So, you'd be amazed. I just came back from a roadshow in January that encompassed our customers and prospects in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And it was 2.5 weeks of extensive meetings with hospitals and finance companies and first responders and all our customer base. And I was amazed at how aware people were about the quantum threat, regardless of what geography I was approaching it, and the level of excitement that they were seeing that, we were actually going ahead and implementing it. There was all of a sudden a sigh of relief, a collective sigh of relief that I picked up as I went through these meetings. And so quantum is something that people are recognizing as a must-have. I was actually amazed with that. I thought we were right up front implementing this, but the feedback from our customers was, that gives us an assurance that not only are we secure today, but we're going to be secure in the very near future as well, when the quantum threat becomes that much more prevalent. So there was amazing amount of interest, amazing amount of excitement, and people wanted to have it right away. As soon as it's available, turn it on and let us have the benefits of PQC. So, and that was pretty much universal.
Interesting. And you mentioned healthcare. So I would imagine that with the lifetime of a secret in healthcare being a lifetime, that they're more sensitive to harvest now, decrypt later, right?
Yeah, and they've also gone through a lot of challenges with recent ransomware attacks going up exponentially, and so they are very, very sensitive with regards to what platforms they are now deploying within their environment. There was one particular hospital, large hospital with about 12,000 beds in Indonesia, where during our presentation, they're already an existing customer. They've rolled out the platform. During our presentation, the CEO showed up unannounced. And the only reason she showed up was because they had just come through a ransomware attack that they were extremely conscious about. And they wanted to make sure that they accelerate the deployment to other aspects of their hospital, which were not previously covered by our platform. And that's why post-quantum was very, very important to them.
Interesting. So it sounds like, as we mentioned earlier, this is something you have to buy into, obviously. You're not just like adding a cipher to Microsoft Teams or whatever. Like you're buying into something here.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of replacement do you see happening in a company? Do you see this being used for the video calls that we're all used to inside of a company? And how would you handle then someone calling in from the outside? Like I invite a customer in, whatever. Like what happens? Do they get a web interface that they end up going to that sort of starts to introduce them to the platform?
Yeah. So our platform typically is very specific to mobile communication, and it's basically fits at the heart of that problem. And that problem is not resolved by Teams. It's not resolved by Slack, and people recognize that very clearly. Okay, they also have this need for security and encryption, which those platforms don't necessarily provide them. That's where we come in and we get deployed. Our footprint is much smaller, and our cost per user is much, much, much less than a Microsoft 365 or a Slack implementation. So they are then able to deploy us across the board. And to all their end users. Now, you bring up a great point. How do we encompass, a third party coming into a conversation from the outside? The good news is we have a web-based interface which we extend out, and the extension happens on the invitation of a recognized user. So only they can push forth that extension to a third party who then participates based on that invitation, sets up an account, participate, and then after that, they're torn down as and when that conversation is deleted. If they keep the conversation live, they stay part of that conversation, and they have the means to continue to communicate and participate in that conversation. We support video. We support, broadcast streaming as well. We also support audio. And so we pretty much support all the features and capabilities you're used to from any other platform, but we do it in a much more secure manner.
Do you find that your users are using it on a computer and a phone, or just the phone? Really?
No, they actually use it. See, we built it mobile first. For them, this was really important, and so it's ideally suited for either an Android or an iOS device. But we see phone implementations. We see, iPad or tablet implementations, and then we see laptop and desktop implementation. The good news is you can really take this platform anywhere you want, and you're not incurring an additional cost. You get that same experience, so you can actually start off in a conversation on a phone and put the phone down and go to your laptop as you get home, and you can pick up where you left off on that conversation. So it seamlessly integrates from device to device.
Does it pick up the conversation and show you history when you switch over?
Absolutely. Showing history was very, very important. And that too is important when you introduce a new person to the conversation, that history remains. So,
okay.
A lot of times.
Why I'm asking, because your competition, you know why I'm asking.
No, so again, we built this with the enterprise in mind, and we recognize there'll be use cases when you are introducing a new person to a conversation who's taking over. We've also, built in the means to leverage AI as a means to summarize that conversation too. So, our first AI release was in 2018, believe it or not. And since then, we've been evolving and building on our AI capability as well, which is very, very powerful. So let's say you join a conversation that's been running for 6 months, and you're the new program manager, and you want to get yourself up to speed. So you make part of the conversation, you hit an icon and say, summarize the last 6 months for me, and it'll pull up a summary for you on everything that's happened with people's names and action items and dates that specifically call out highlights of that conversation that allow you to get quickly up to speed and be up and running. Now, if you want to go through all the detail yourself, that's available to you as well. And this is true not only a case of just any conversation, we further specialized it to be effective and accurate in the context of medical conversations. So when there are two physicians speaking and they're talking about a particular patient and then they switch the conversation to another patient, we have the means to picking that up as well and laying out exactly what was discussed for each of those patients.
Okay. So by having people using this mode, so now you have some real world data from the field. I don't know what access you have to it, but I don't mean you're reading people's messages. I mean, like, I don't know what access you have to like performance headaches and complaints and that kind of thing. And also I'm assuming there's lab testing going on all the time. Did you have any preliminary benchmarks of what ML-KEM looks like when you switch it on compared to ECDSA or whatever else you were doing?
Yeah. Yeah, so and the important point to make over here is we have absolutely no access to anybody's information.
Yeah, I didn't think so. That's why I clarified. I meant, like, do you hear from admins saying,
yeah,
all of a sudden my users are saying it's taking an hour to send a photo. That's an exaggeration, but that's what I meant. Yeah,
but it's important to make that clear because sometimes people don't realize that, and even if you're approached by a third party to gain access, we don't have the keys. Whoever owns the data, they own the key, right? So if you're, company ABC Inc., you own the ABC Inc. key. So I have no role to play in that. But yes, what we did do was we were tracking this area very carefully, and we wanted to make sure that we waited for the standard to be ratified to a certain extent before we did any kind of implementation of PQC. And so as NIST approached it and progressed, means unlike Apple and Signal, who took a precursor approach to PQC, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to wait. And once we felt that, ML-KEM was where it's going to be at, we felt confident enough. We had a very quick prototype that was put together. And within a few months, we were out in alpha. A couple of months after that in beta. We were out in beta for a bunch of months, and then we went ahead and launched and deployed it across the user base.
Okay, so with the performance then, have you seen any difference? Have you seen?
So again, we wanted to be very careful. Performance is very important from an end user perspective, and it becomes even that much more important when you have, context sensitive and time sensitive applications like voice and video. And we worked very hard to make sure that there was no difference. So there is entirely no noticeable difference between our legacy implementation and our post-quantum implementation. I feel very good about that.
Okay, so I mean, there's always a difference. It's just hard. You're saying it's not really perceptible.
Exactly. And if it's not perceptible, I believe it's not there because you can see it.
Because there's some differences, right? If you compare RSA and ML-KEM, you've got key size differences, you've got time to key generation, encapsulation, decapsulation.
Absolutely.
ML-KEM
and you can actually see the key size difference. When we were actually demonstrating this to our customers, we would actually show them. That's the only way you can visibly show something's going on, right? So they said, well, show us. I said, okay, we'll show you the key. Exactly. That this is not smoke and mirrors. So that is a very visible means to show them the difference in the key size. And that hits you in the face the minute you see that.
Yeah. The main speed up is decapsulation from what I found. ML-KEM it's crazy fast. One of my favorite analogies is if you take the world's fastest fighter jet, multiply its speed by 3, that's RSA. And then if you then take the speed of light, that's ML-KEM. That's how much faster it is at decapsulation, approximately. So it's crazy fast at that. So I was just
maybe I'll use that the next time somebody asks you that question.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers,
I'll quote you on it.
It comes to something like 1,100 versus 140,000 or something. It's a crazy difference that the human mind can't even conceive of.
Exactly.
Okay, I was wondering with that kind of experience. Now, did you have any sectors that are still worried about flipping the switch, or do they feel that it shouldn't be across the board? It should only be for like test areas? Because I do see some folks who are considering this like a POC for PQC time period. Like, we're going to start doing inventory, but we've got this one sensitive thing that we'll start testing PQC in that. and then we'll slowly migrate everything else. Like, are you encountering anything like that, or your customers so far have been like, flip the switch, let's go? Like we said.
Yeah, so it's interesting you bring that up because the excitement around PQC was so evident and so apparent. People just wanted to start using it. And I have to recognize my team because they did such a great job of implementing it and providing a transition path from legacy to PQC that was seamless. And because of that, nobody wanted to, test it because there was nothing to really test. We basically said, hey, guys, guess what, guys? Release 6.7, which is what it is going to be quantum proof. Okay. And we're going to deploy it on such and such date. If you want to participate in the beta, you're welcome to participate. Otherwise, one fine day, you're going to come in and it's going to be upgraded to that native latest release. And people love that. And now we obviously had our support team, ready and available to provide that additional layer of support in case problems happen. And we did have some problems where people, on some devices upgraded late. As a result, they started a conversation with the legacy encryption and they sent it to a device which was now PQC ready. And then there was a mismatch. But ultimately, we managed through that by forcing upgrades on all devices. As soon as they came up and as soon as they launched the application, we forced an upgrade. And that way they were safe and didn't have to run into that problem.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine the handshake wouldn't go very well.
No. Not at all.
Two very different sets of numbers being exchanged.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And you're saying that you're ready for the future in that, let's say there's a round 4, NIST finalists or whatever, you're going to be ready to try and implement code where people can select, let's say, multivariate or code-based or whatever else comes along the line. Have you been testing any of those early finalists?
Actually, that's an interesting point. And we had not looked at it that way. It means our decision was that we would decide on what the platform would use and it would be the same across the board. But it's an interesting approach that you mentioned that you list the supported capabilities in there and let end users pick and choose. We have not approached it that way. We will ultimately, at least our product team ultimately will make the decision based on market feedback and customer requests on way to go with this. And if we have to, upgrade to that next level, then we will. But as of now, I think we're in a good spot with what we've implemented.
Yeah, because we know there will be future rounds.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting how much of a positioning approach will be here. Like ML-KEM will be so thoroughly entrenched, let's say, assuming for the next few years. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it'll be like, well, you can also do multivariate or whatever. And then I was going to be like, well, should we? Or should, is there a reason? So I was curious if how ready you'd be.
No, but again, like I said at the start, we built it to be crypto agile, right?
Yeah, that's
and so then we have the means to go down that path should we need to. But we also want to be smart about it.
Yeah. So there are no sectors that are kind of afraid of going too early, or on the flip side, are there any sectors that feel that this is so super critical they have to get in the hands of certain people? Let's say, I'm making this example up, but let's say there was some government agency in some country that they're like, whoa, we've got people in dangerous areas and we need to be absolutely certain that their communication one day can't be decrypted. So we're going to implement this for our field troops or something like that. Have you encountered any real specific urgent use cases?
The good news is the way we implemented it and kept it seamless, at the same point of time, we did not charge them extra for this. Mm-hmm. We said, we're not going to charge you for it. Okay, we're just going to make it part of the platform. And because it was seamless and it was not an additional charge, there was no pushback. Everybody said, hey, this is a new capability. This is the new, if you may, the way of encrypting. We want it, turn it on, and let's go. And that way we can also talk to our constituents that we are using a platform that's quantum proof. And we had CISOs sit in on these conversations, and they actually felt good that they would be one of the first organizations rolling something like this out, because they wanted to then go out and talk about it, saying, hey, they already started down the quantum path, if you may, because now they feel that they look better on a peer-by-peer basis. So there was actually no pushback that we got from anybody. Now, there were some constituents who wanted it sooner rather than later and who have been part of our beta program. And they were saying, let's go. And you can guess who those people were. But yeah, there was no pushback saying, "Hey, I don't want it. Please don't deploy it," because I think that's just counterintuitive, if you may, based on the promise that PQC delivers.
And because I like to act as a beta tester at times, even though I haven't used this, one thing that you might want to consider is this could become an interesting out-of-band or multi-factor communication pathway.
Yep.
You know, you could be sending, passphrases or whatever needed for things that can't be protected by PQC for whatever reason yet, to prevent the risk of any kind of handshake that will be vulnerable. So that, I guess, is another way to look at it, right? Like, you have to send an email through traditional means that's not ready yet for PQC. Well, great. Then you just have some password protected file, and this is the way you send the password out.
Yep.
It could be.
Yep. But that's why also we've seen an interesting shift now that you mentioned email, that a lot of traffic that originally was on email is now moving on to NetSfere. Because NetSfere being closed by nature and stay, that kind of keeps people away from all those phishing attacks that come on email. And at the same point in time, it's now encrypted through PQC, which email is not necessarily, right? So here's an environment they feel that much more comfortable engaging in. So you see a lot of that traffic just move over. And that's been a very interesting, and we've never gone out and pushed and said, hey, email is dead, only use NetSfere. That's not for us to figure out. That's for the end users to decide, right? And people have normally, in the past, they would transition the traffic because NetSfere, allowed people to be brief and allowed people to get a quicker reaction and response because it's mobile messaging. But now, just from that security promise, they're moving over because they say, hey, listen, I want to be able to send these files out and I want to make sure they're secure. Now, the other thing NetSfere does is we don't have file size limitations, unlike emails do, right? So we can go up to, gigabytes. And that can be set by the sysad admin at the enterprise level. They can set whatever threshold they want to set. And most people keep it open, right? So because there is no file size limit, then people want to be able to send it securely on NetSfere, and they feel that much more comfortable than sending it on email, if you may.
So that web interface we talked about earlier, would that also work for a third party?
Absolutely.
So I need to send you a 1 gigabyte report.
Boom.
Oh my God, I wouldn't want to read a 1 gigabyte report, but whatever, yeah, it'll go. Okay.
No, absolutely. Because, the other thing, I talked about healthcare, but healthcare, people are sending scans and MRIs, and these are high def images, right? Yeah. That need the definition in order to make sure that the diagnosis is right? And so these are big files. And so they go back and forth seamlessly.
Yeah, I'm glad we bounced around a little on that. I was trying to think of some other potential use cases and ways that this could blend in. So even if email is always there, we see it now, right? I sent something big, so we need to establish some kind of like secure file transfer or whatever. When we do a report for a client or whatever, sometimes, we have to get tricky about how they receive it, depending on their requirements or whatever, So yeah, this is an interesting approach.
Yeah, in this case, you would not have to go to a third-party platform, say, okay, I'm going to send you a link to XYZ platform. Yes. It's all integrated into this. And then your clients also get used to it because they see the same requests coming from the same platform again and again for everything. Right. And so it makes it that much more seamless from an end user perspective.
Great. Yeah. So Anurag, thank you so much. I wanted to include some other versions of this journey to becoming, post quantum ready. And I hope the platform continues to evolve.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Now it's time for Coherence, the Quantum Executive Summary, where I take a moment to highlight some of the business impacts we discussed today, in case things got too nerdy at times. Let's recap. NetSfere is bringing something new to enterprise communication with a mobile-first, quantum-proof platform. Think WhatsApp, but with corporate controls, regulatory friendliness, and post-quantum cryptography running under the hood. NetSfere can handle voice, video, and file sharing. Rather than go hybrid, as tech giants like Apple and AWS have done, NetSfere went ahead and fully implemented NIST finalist ML-KEM, claiming no noticeable performance difference. Their customers were interested in being quantum ready out of the gate on installation for phones, tablets, and laptops. One major client is a large hospital in Indonesia still reeling from a ransomware attack that was happy to protect against what it sees as future attacks. And healthcare secrets do have a long lifetime, literally a lifetime. Being able to securely send gigabyte-sized MRI scans didn't hurt either. Third-party recipients can access a web portal to receive files and messages if they're not in the ecosystem. Unlike some other secure messaging apps, you can access entire conversations on different devices, which is no doubt important for business threads. Anurag says the application is crypto-agile, so future rounds of NIST-standardized PQC ciphers may be added. That does it for this episode. Thanks to Anurag Lal for joining to discuss NetSfere's PQC-enabled corporate messaging. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to Protiviti's The Post-Quantum World, and maybe leave a review to help others find us. Be sure to follow me on all socials at Constant Hacker. That's Constant with a K, Hacker. You'll find links there to what we're doing in quantum computing services at Protiviti. You can also DM me questions or suggestions for what you'd like to hear on the show. For more information on our quantum services, check out Protiviti.com or follow Protiviti Tech on X and LinkedIn. Until next time, be kind and stay quantum curious.